Let's begin with a brief moment of silence for those suffering in California. I know several people that were affected by this tragedy. A very good family that I know that is a part of our mission that has established a satsang center for many people within the area, and they have 10 to 20 people over there every week to do services in their beautiful home, and that home is gone. And I don't mean rubble and ashes. I mean, it is vanished. Does not exist anymore. It is completely gone. What was there was just a patch of dirt. Naturally, what's coming to the surface is the mismanagement of all of this is tragic, and heads will roll, I hope. So let's just take a moment of silence and hope that things get better. Now, here's the beauty of these conversations and topics is that we're not trying to ignore or neglect that there are worldly, material, important things going on in our reality. But with the spiritual concepts, and which is with today's as above, so below, where we get to blend physics and cosmology, we get to see the big picture and we get to see the context of where we fit into all this, which is tiny, infinitesimally tiny and insignificant. We're all insignificant. And yet we all feel with God's grace that we're the most important thing in the universe. Everything in the universe happens around you. You are the center of it. And yet you're nothing. And everything in the universe happening around my center and her center and everyone feels that they're at the center of the universe because everything that you experience and learn about happens around you. You're at its center. And that is one of the first miracles of God's grace that I experience is that the paradox of realizing all the time that I am a drop of nothing in this infinite cosmos. And yet I feel this is my reality. Everything I experience and perceive is from here. I'm the center of it. This is mind bending. And what we're going to experience today is some mind bending topics and mind bending meditations. And this is why I'm into this cosmology above and below. As I often point out, by the way, as we refer to me as a polymath, I didn't even know what that word was until maybe the last year or so, reading an biography of Da Vinci. And I came across that word. And then, sure enough, I went back and I saw that I used it in a book of mine as I was teaching people how to start a private practice. And I was encouraging them to be a polymath, but I don't remember it. So since I've came across that context, and now I'm like, you know what? I think I'm one of these. When I was in second grade, there was called to the principal's office, which isn't always a good thing, right? And there's my mom, the principal, and I'm like, uh-oh, this can't be good, right? They sit down, they're talking to me like I'm not even in the room. And I find that offensive. I'm in what? I'm second grade, I don't know, 7 years old, and they're talking about me like I'm not even in the room and talking about how I'm failing second grade. That I can't do it, I'm failing, and I'm thinking, I'm like, again, they're telling me like I'm not even in the room. They're talking about holding me back. I'm in second grade, for God's sakes. I'm gonna go with the short bus, you know? And and so this is what's taking place. And they decide to test me and give me some tests to see where I belong. And turns out I'm not slow. I'm advanced. I was bored with everything they were teaching. So they put me in advanced classes, and then I started Excel. So I was doing the regular stuff and then so much more. So from a prideful point of view, I can say that I got used to being, as I grow up, the smartest person in the room. And I've always joked around, and I didn't mean this seriously, that doesn't mean that I'm brilliant. That means most people are pretty dumb. Okay, most people don't care that much about their intelligence. They're not really investing in that. Most people are investing in material comfort and success and not developing who and what they are. And that's all I mean by that. And so I always thought that I don't need to be the smartest person in the world, just the smartest person in the room. If I'm the smartest person in the room, then I command some authority and I can have some success. And in this country and in this world, that's not that hard to do, be the smartest guy in the room, you know? And then I went in 2015. I'm going to share the screen here in a minute. In 2015, after my accident, and I was still really dazed in living in two worlds at once, the spiritual realm and in the material realm, and far more in the spiritual realm. So I was in this kind of hazy fog in the material realm, and I went to Europe. My uncle was very concerned about my condition, and he thought I needed to get away. And he owns an apartment in Malaga, Spain, and said, "Why don't you go there for a little while?" And I said, "Cool." So, being the adventurer that I am, I thought, why not take the opportunity to see what else I can see around? So I went to Switzerland. And while I'm in this small apartment in Switzerland, I realize I'm in Geneva. That's where I flew into, and that's the capital. And I realized that, oh my God, I am like 45 minutes away from CERN, the quantum physics mecca of the world, where physicists from around the world all clamor and beg to be there. So all the most important physics work in the world takes place at CERN in Switzerland. It's where the home of the Large Hadron Collider, the LHC. I'm not going to go into all the details of this. If you understand it, you know it, and you appreciate it, then you're fascinated. And if not, again, I don't want to bore you like a nerd. What happened when I went to CERN? Let me bring up a screen here. Let me back up a second. Slideshow. All these buttons to push. All right. So let me first say to those who may be watching this later, this book, this workbook here is free. It's an introduction to many of the things that I do here and other areas. And so this is free. And if you can go to the LifeMind website, Life-Mind, or within the portal, and they both link together, you can download this book for free. And I encourage you to get this. It's a primer, you could say. Numerology is in there, some astrology, a little bit of everything, some physics, some science, some history, some behavioral stuff from my practice. So I encourage you to go ahead and get this book for free. Introduce you to kind of what I am and what I do. Excuse me. Today we're talking about from the book workbook As Above, So Below. Those who attend this, it's for sale on my website. The ebook version is for $777, and I'm always using mystical numerological frequencies for that for my prices. $777, and the paperback on Amazon and other places, maybe I don't know, $12, something like that. Anyway, for anybody that mentions this workshop, then I'll give it to you for $2.22. Again, you see the numerological frequencies. I'm weaving in some mystical kind of powers and influences there. 222 is a very Kabbalistic number. So this is what we're discussing today. Now, again, as I went to CERN, and I'm used to being the smartest guy in the room, suddenly when I'm in CERN, I'm the dumb guy in the room. I'm walking around this place with physicists that are brilliant, and I'm the dumb guy in the room, and I'm just trying to like keep up and at least appear like I'm not a dope, you know? And I'm trying to pretend like I'm having these intellectual conversations with these people as I'm engaging them, because I want to go home with some memories. And by the way, I should back up again for a moment. While I'm in Geneva in this room, and I realize that I'm close to CERN, to get a ticket to go tour CERN, it can take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. They're booked solid. They're a very limited amount of people that can go as guests, and they're booked solid. I called them up. I'm like, why not? I'm here. Who knows? She said, oh my God, you got good timing because we just had a cancellation a moment before you called. If you can be here in 40 minutes, you can get in. And I'm like, oh, I'm there. So that's how it happened where I got into CERN. What are the odds of this? That I was there and that I had the foresight to call them. And then, and again, at that right time, if I called 10 seconds earlier or later, it would have been gone, right? Because he was just going to go down the list and find people that wanted to be able to have it.
Are you saying CERN or Lucerne?
It's CERN, I'm sorry, CERN. And
Okay.
I can't think of the anagram, what that means, and so it's they each letter stands for something. And again, and I at the moment I don't know what that is. And
Okay.
it's not like a real easy. I mean, it's very technical, somewhat technical. So it's called CERN, and again, it's the home of the Hadron Collider. What physicists were doing for years, for decades, is trying to discover the boson. So we know about atoms and nucleus and subatomic particles and all this. And the boson is the what they refer to as the God gene, the God molecule, the beginning of it, the core of it. If they can trace the boson, so the Great Hadron Collider is a tunnel, a structured tunnel that goes around. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know, 20 or 30 miles. This is so they can fire atomic particles through this thing at high speeds to be able to shatter them and be able to measure them and detect them. As I got to see in my tour, parts of the Great Hadron Collider, I can't explain to you what I'm seeing. You've seen pictures of oil rigs and the machinery that goes into these kind of massive things. That looks like a tinker toy to the Great Hadron Collider. What I was watching, what I'm touring through, and what's seeing is mega mind bending, you know. And so again, this is just a little outside picture of the grounds, and there's just all these scholar book nut eggheads scrambling all over the place, all in these conferences. It was just a tremendous atmosphere. So I just wanted to share that my fascination with quantum physics, science, biology, all of it is robust and always has been since I was a child. From second grade on, when they realized that I wasn't dumb, that I was smart, I was grabbing everything I possibly could. And here's the challenge. I've often said this, and I'm going to reiterate it again, that the amount of the mass of books that I've studied to gain the knowledge that I have is huge. I mean, I was just gonna try to bring a few in, but I have too many. I have a section, excuse me, a section on my bookshelf that is this wide, that is purely physics and astronomical books that I've studied. And those are just, and there's a few more that I didn't think it was worth keeping. So that's my personal library. They're big, they're thick, they got a lot of information in there. So that's what I had to go through to get the knowledge that I have. And then we have what we're using today. This workbook, this little thin, I can't see what the page numbers are. It's about less than 30 pages. I often will say that my struggle with my acquirement and attainment of vast amounts of knowledge was a lot of work, because I had to go through the right stuff and the bad stuff to get to the right stuff. I had to sift out all the wrong stuff and find the ones. And when you're doing this, again, when you're talking about physics, particularly, and I suck at math, you're dealing with some very egg-headed personalities that simply do not make it very interesting to read. It's just dry science, right? I'm not a big fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, but what he does is he makes physics and science accessible to the layman. And so I appreciate that. For me, it's too fundamental. I'm a Brian Greene fan. Brian Greene is an accomplished physicist. He does the same thing. He makes complicated knowledge accessible to me so I can understand it as a layman, and makes it fun. And still, as I read Brian Greene's books, they're big, they're complicated. You're studying massive details of science, and it is laborious, and it's hard to stay involved, interested all the time. It's not like some clip along novel that has some excitement to it. It takes some dedication. But I've always been so fascinated and passionate about these things, and so blown away by them, that again, my passion is I want to write about them too. And what I do is I try to take that to another level, because I'm not seeing this through dry academic eyes. I'm seeing this through wonder, amazement. I see the beauty, the poetry, and I see God in it. I see the miracles of creation. So what I'd like to share with you is I began to think, how would I begin this talk today? And so I started reviewing my As Above, So Below workbook. And I'm like, wow, this is really good. I don't remember reading, it was a long time ago that I wrote it. And I'm thinking, again, why I write these things is because I don't want you to have to talk to me or go to a class. I want you to be able to have access to this knowledge and these insights just by picking it up and doing it when you want, whenever you can, at your own convenience. And so I have worked hard to distill. I like distill, not condense. Distill wide amounts of knowledge into funneling down and distilling it into something that is more charming, more something that's more has more personality, that's more intriguing, because I have a wonder. I like to write like a child in some ways. And so that's what I always have been able to kind of naturally do is take complicated things and make them more accessible, but in a fun way. What I think is a fun way. So as I'm thinking about how to start this talk today, with all this information, where do I begin? And I'm reviewing my book last night, laying in bed, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to start where it starts. Let me bring it up. Oh, did I not? No, I didn't. Hold on. Not that. Not that. Ah, here we go. Cool. Are you serious? You don't work on the remote doesn't work on this? What a mess. All right, hold on one second. I'm bringing it up so you can kind of follow along if you like. All right, let me get back to a share screen. So here is the first passage in the book, and I'm going to read this. Thousands of years ago, all adepts, disciples, and initiates entering into knowledge of the mysteries were schooled simultaneously in sciences. When civilization was young, there was no separation between science and spirit. They were accepted as one. And if you were to be trained in spiritual practices, you're to be educated in sciences as well. How is it possible for us to have a relationship with the creative force of the universe if we do not process at least a basic understanding of how the creative force manifests itself in reality? Hopefully you can see, like I'm creating a little separation. I'm referring to it as the creative force. There is again, the scientific force of creation, this process, and I'm including and not separating the intelligence that's within it. How can we possibly appreciate what God is to us if we do not use our minds to fathom what God does for us? The universe, both physical and mystical, is a wondrous place, full of miracles and astounding beauty. To know the machinations of the universe is to appreciate God's work. To study nature in all its perfect simplicity and amazing complexities creates an inner silence in awe that is personal and can only result in an intimate relationship with the force and love of creation. We will begin at the beginning. We'll begin at the birth of the universe. And you can see here right away, again, we jump into cosmology. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Why won't this thing click? Science, what a joke. That's just stupid. I can't change a page on an ebook with my remote. Scientists. So, again, this quote, and the second one here is Om. Simple quote, the primordial sound of creation. What we see again is that every philosophy, every spiritual path and religion has a creation story. Always has, always will. The separation between science and spirit is when what has happened there is that as it's separated, the conventional and scientific community and culture began to separate it by saying that these are convenient explanations, the creative forces and a God power and all these kind of things. And spiritualists, we're not seeing the difference. That they're married together. That again, as I fascinate, ruminate, meditate, which we're going to do right away, on the complexities and the miraculous events that create a universe, a material reality. For me personally, I cannot separate the amazement what I see is a love that something of intelligent design has constructed this amazing system that is so complex, and yet it's just like that. It just happens all on its own. I love the rabbit hole of details within cosmology. To be able to go into the details and to discover that no matter what you find, as you go out into the big universe, you find more and more and more. It never stops giving more insights, more perspectives, more wondrous things that you're just blown away by. From suns and planets to quasars. So what this book does is provide you with that. It gives you a tour. Let me use the book I'm holding in my hand. The origins of space and time. Before there is anything, there is nothing. The void, the silent silence. Then there's a point. The point is within the nothing. The point cannot contain itself. It is full of infinity. The point is within, it is an infinitely small point that is infinitely dense. It is full of the universe. The point that is infinitely dense explodes into the nothing in a big bang. An immeasurable amount of matter and consciousness spills into nothing in all directions with enormous force and heat, so much heat that it is trillions and trillions of times hotter than any sun or pulsar will ever be. Billions upon billions of point particles are flung into every direction, up and down, sideways and backwards at speeds of light. They are so hot, they are at the essence of heat itself. Within an instant, less than a single moment, trillions of tons of point particles travel millions of miles through the nothing, filling it with heat and light. Let me repeat that one. Trillions of tons of point particles travel millions of miles through the nothing in seconds, in milliseconds, millions of miles. The first particles from the Big Bang are hundreds of miles, millions of light years away before they even begin to slow or cool down. Meanwhile, trillions of tons of more point particles are still spewing from the infinite furnace of this single event. The single event, the instant before the Big Bang, is called the singularity because it is a singular moment. It cannot be paired or combined. It is the moment the universe is one, and just before it becomes two, duality, and more. So this is what I kind of felt was lacking as I devoured the science in my studies throughout my life, is that it lacked some emotion. And I will acknowledge just that indeed, again, I think Brian Greene is a fantastic writer. He doesn't just make things accessible, but I can feel his emotion and passion. He loves what he does. I don't feel that with Neil deGrasse Tyson or many others. I can't separate the emotion from the knowledge and the intellect. To me, they're side by side. And this is what I feel is lacking in the division between spirit concepts and science concepts. Science is all about no emotion, and in religion relies solely on it, excluding each other. We're going to get to that Einstein quote where science without religion is lame, etc. So what I'm encouraging people to do with this workbook and with this topic is to appreciate the art, the poetry that is involved in the science that's around us. I know it sounds corny, and yes, I've done plenty of LSD in my life, so maybe that's where it comes from. But I can sit to this day at 58 years old and look at a leaf and a flower and trip out. I am so sometimes lost in the creation of it, the mechanics of it, that I'm looking at this little thing, especially like an animal, and thinking how it fits into this macrocosm of everything. And yet it is insignificant and is ignorant to it. It just is its thing. This never ceases to blow my mind. What I want to encourage people to do is to not study science simply to know facts and because they want to be scientific, but to see the philosophy within it, the spirit within it, the love, the grace, which again, the grace is God's power that unites us and connects us with his love and with his omniscience and omnipresence. Can't I change screens? I don't know. Tell me it. If the history of the universe were condensed into a 12-month calendar, this is what it would look like. I'm going to show you in a moment. With the Big Bang happening at 12 midnight on January 1st and the present moment being the first second of the new cosmic year, exact midnight, January 1st. This was constructed by Carl Sagan, the guy that did the documentary in the 70s, the guy was brilliant. Such a passionate man. So what I'm going to show you is just that. It's a little bit hard to grasp, I think, but again, especially to look at it rather than just hear about it. So again, I'm going to repeat this part. If the history of the universe were condensed, the entire history of the universe were condensed into a 12-month calendar, this is what it would look like. With the Big Bang happening at 12 midnight, the beginning of it, on January 1st, and the present moment, billions of years later, being the first second of the new cosmic year, exact midnight, January 1st. I know it's a bit hard to see. So what we have here is literally a calendar that shows this. January 1st at 12 midnight is the Big Bang up here in the corner. May would be the origin of the Milky Way galaxy. That's how far away it is. Keep going. We have September. We want September in this cosmic year. The origin of the solar system. That's on September 9th. September 14th, the origin of the Earth. September 25th, origin of life. So look at the difference. Origin of the solar system is on the 9th. Handful of days later in the cosmic calendar is the origin of Earth. Handful more days, 10 more days, is origin of life. A month later, DNA and separation of sexual components begin to exist. Evolutionary process. The first cells with nuclei appear. And then in December, in this cosmic year. So we have all these things going on. We've gone through this entire year. Because remember that what we're doing is we're saying that the Big Bang was midnight, January 1st, and then what we are is 1 year later. We're at New Year's Eve of the cosmic calendar. So all of recorded history is happening right here in this midnight moment of December. And then we have an expansion of that below that. December 1st, oxygen develops. December 19th, first fish and vertebrates, animals on land. First dinosaurs on the 24th. 28th, dinosaurs are extinct. The cosmic calendar, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. First primates on the 29th. First hominids, first humans on the 31st. Now, check this out. Now let's take a look at the December 31st. Consider that the present moment is the first second of the first moment of the cosmic new year. Let me restate that. Again, that means that, well, I'm going to show it to you. I do explain it. All of recorded history that we know of is taking place in the cosmic concept right here, right now. 10:30 p.m. first humans. 11:45 p.m. discovery of fire. 11:59 cave paintings in Europe. Now keep in mind that these are not random calculations. These are astrophysicists and astronomers that are doing this mathematically. That if you condensed all of time that we have into a calendar, this is what it would break down to. That everything we know of, everything we experience from first humans to this present moment took place in an hour and a half of the cosmic year, in the last hour and a half. First humans at 10:30 p.m., and we go all the way down. Fall of the Roman Empire at 11:59. Invention of scientific method, Renaissance in Europe at 1159 and 59 seconds. We're talking seconds. The birth of Jesus, 1159 and 56 seconds. Fall of the Roman Empire at 57 seconds. And then this current moment. This thing needs to get out of the way. At 12 midnight, 1.00001 a.m. So what is that? 1/1000th of a second. Development of science, technology, global culture, space exploration, acquisition of means of self-destruction, and nuclear power. All taking place within the last hundredths of a second of this cosmic calendar. This gives us a perspective, again, of how insignificant we are. Again, we see first humans, and in less than an hour and a half of the cosmic calendar, entire nations and civilizations come and go. Humbling. Now we'll do anything. Oh, wait, why don't you change? There we go. And we'll get back to that. Let me stop the share. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to jump to, so the first part of this book, as we do as above, so below. The first part of the book is as above, the macrocosm, the big picture, as above, the cosmological. The second half of the book is so below. This is an axiom, as above, so below, a very ancient, timeless axiom that mystics have used for tens of thousands of years, that this simple phrase, as above, so below, refers to this concept that what's happening here in our material reality is a reflection of what is above. This has beauty in it as well. Initially, we might think that what's happening here is a perfect reflection, so therefore it's a smaller version of what's there. God, I hope not. I hope that the as above, celestial, heavenly, divine realm is perfect, because as beautiful as this place is, it's got its flaws, right? So we take this concept of as above, so below a little bit deeper and realize that while the below is a reflection, a mirror image of what is above, it is slightly distorted. When you look, again, being 10,000 feet up in the high Sierras, as I was when I was a backpacker, and seeing, coming across a pond or a lake in the wilderness, it is staggering how flawless it is. And you see in this still pond or lake the perfect reflection of the sky above. It is a mirror image. And as above, so below encourages you to appreciate that, see the beauty and wonder of that, but also remember that it is still a reflection. Lift your eyes to heaven and see the real thing. Appreciate both, not one or the other. It's not saying to never mind the illusion, the distorted reality that's slightly modified because it's actually a reflection of the real thing. It's reminding you to appreciate both. So when we have the as above, so below concept, again, the graduated perspective of this is to not separate, but you see that they are not just mirror images, but they enhance each other. That we can appreciate what is above by appreciating and honoring what is below. That we are microcosms, which we're going to get into the microcosm part of this. So let's jump into a guided meditation and give you an example of how some of this can work. So these few pages that come up after this explain this creative process. We're going to get to the meditation in a moment. The singularity event, where the entire universe that we know of it as, or Omniverse, as we might want to say, or multiverse, is condensed into a singular point. Everything, all the mass, is condensed into a singular point, and that's what explodes. Where was it? There is no where then. It happened, and the evidence of it is everywhere. That's how it's said in physics. Where it happened, there was no where. It happened, and the evidence of it is everywhere. Again, that just blows my mind. I mean, I am just like shaken by that. And so this workbook, in a few pages, explains that cosmic year of creation and singularity moment to this present moment. Now, everything in recorded history was within the last hour and a half of our cosmic year, of our calendar, of our cosmic calendar. And that, again, this process of creation, heat, point particles, condensing, accreting, and eventually forming massive planets, quasars, stars, moons, all this perfect symmetry. Eventually our solar system with life. So this, in a few pages, takes you through this tour. And again, the magnitude of this, that, again, the complications, the complexities. For example, our moon, this little tiny orb that's floating up there in the sky that we see every day, all the time, that we take totally for granted, it is the perfect distance. And I was surprised I didn't know this more profoundly when I was growing up. I had some knowledge of it, but if it was any closer or any further away than what it is right now, within a small range, there's no life here. It is our balancing agent. That shows the complexities and the details that something intelligent is watching over this and making it happen. An engineer, a cosmic divine engineer. That again, let's face it, if we go right to the God concept, the magical, mystical part of that, we say, well, God can do anything. So what does it matter? What's so impressive about that? God can do anything. Can God create something so heavy he can't lift it? That's one of those Zen cones. So God doesn't really have to create the multiverse with all these perfect, symmetrical harmonies, harmonious machinations that all sing together and are so wonderful and so perfect and flawless. You just make it be. I think my perception is that God puts all those details in there for us to enjoy, to be able to enjoy it and be able to, and again, as I'm watching a film or reading a book, the difference between slap together YouTube, whatever, and finally made films. Finally made film has details. Stanley Kubrick is one of my favorite directors because when you watch Clockwork Orange, whether you like it or not, it's a pretty intense, gritty. I mean, and I love it. I mean, and because every frame, and this is what kind of director he was, every frame is flawless for what it is. Every frame, not scene, frame. If you watch it frame by frame, you will see that whether you like it or not, it has a purpose to it. It has a meaning. It has a point to it. Every look that little Alex has when his parole officer drinks from the glass with the dentures in it is hilarious, and it's so well done. And again, these details. Let's face it, most people do not notice the details in Kubrick's work in 2001. The Interstellar, Christopher Nolan's Interstellar movie, is cosmically, cosmologically, astronomically, metaphysically flawless. And he's just a filmmaker. And so while I'm watching that movie when it first came out in the ArcLight Dome, the Cinerama Dome, back for that was made in the 50s, where I first got to see this, it's mind-blowing because I'm thinking there's probably only a handful of us in this packed theater that understands that what he's doing and showing you is exactly correct. That what he's teaching you, what he's giving you in a story that's just a drama is actually also mathematically, astronomically, absolutely, scientifically correct and accurate. And that blew my mind. He didn't have to do that. He did that for us, for the few people that could marvel and get another layer out of that and extract even more from it. As above, so below. I'm giving you some examples of the so below. Stanley Kubrick, Christopher Nolan, that are creating in their own little tiny universe these details that we can appreciate if we understand them and see them. And if you don't, that's fine too. I mean, I went with somebody to see Interstellar that had no understanding of physics, and she had a great time. She enjoyed the movie. It's emotional, it's intense, got a lot of great drama, a good story, a meaning and a purpose to it, something that's meaningful, and she didn't understand the science one bit. So I felt that we both had a great time. I feel, for me personally, because I am an intellectual person, that I don't think it's right to say a better time. I got layers out of it that other people may not. And I think that Christopher Nolan and a filmmaker like Kubrick, they revel in this concept and this idea that there's a few people that are really getting the layers to this. Most people may not, but there's a few people that can really appreciate what I've done here. This is how I write my books. I'm trying to give you the layers so that you can appreciate something. And again, let's get back to the above. God doesn't have to give us all these perfectly symmetrical details. He can just make magical stuff just happen. He is omnipotent. He can do anything. Even create something so heavy he can't lift it. But the moment that he creates something so heavy he can't lift it, he'd be able to lift it. And then not lift it. And then yes, no, yes, no. All simultaneous. All I see in the details of physics and science is God's love. That he wants to be entertained and be able to marvel at his wonderful magic. In a story that I've written that is the more historical account of the Exodus and the biblical historical figure of Moses, when he parts the Red Sea. In my version, I had to do a little bit of narrative. In my version, he doesn't just put up a staff and part it. It's timed with astronomical events to be able to access, channel, direct, and focus energies and metaphysics and things that are there, and be able to channel them and make them cause something. To me, it's more enjoyable. We don't remove the miracle. We just add some science to it. So let's do a meditation. Along with this book, as we get through the, I got it. Well, I got to talk about. Well, let's jump through meditation, and we'll get back to that. Some fun visuals there, got here. So there's a section on galaxies, our sun, the Earth as our home, our moon, meditations. You can close your eyes and listen to this as I read it. You can leave them open, whatever you like. The point of these meditations, these are guided meditations, and I try to teach and encourage active meditation rather than passive ones. Passive ones are when we empty the mind, have no mind, to clear our mind. Good luck with that. The nature of your mind is to think and feel, and nobody can do it. Everyone tries, and they come to me and they say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So you're not doing anything wrong, you're doing the wrong thing. You can't do it. That's not the time and age for this. Instead of active meditations, you'll get better benefits. Rather than empty the mind, fill your mind with wondrous things. You'll have an alteration within your consciousness that's profound and sweet. So this was just a paragraph or so. This would be really simple. This is meditation. Sit silently and think about the power of the sun. How huge it must be to be so visible, yet is 150 million kilometers, 93 million miles away. At that distance, it is still impossible to even look at without damaging your eyes and possibly going blind. Is this the eternal fire spoken of in the Old Testament? Is the sun the manifestation of God whose face Moses could not look upon? Got a cast member. That's kind of mind-blowing. In the early morning, at sunset, the sun is veiled by our atmosphere. For brief moments, you can look into it, absorbing its rays directly into your cells. There is an amazing sense of clarity as the sun's light penetrates the body and is absorbed into living tissue. It's up there right now, blazing and pumping millions of tons of matter into space. Right now. It's almost 1.5 million miles across, and it is up there, whether you think about it or not, doing its thing, being the sun. Sit quietly and contemplate its size, its distance, its power. Can you feel its love? Again, these active meditations, use your imagination, contemplate, and wonder at the unfathomable. These facts, these scientific data that you cannot possibly grasp. It's too much. We can put all the numbers down, we can do all the distance, we can do all the figures, and yet it is mind-blowing. We can't grasp it. A brief departure from that is that there is, I learned this from my alchemy teacher, Dennis Hawk. He was with this little community. It's somewhere here in Northern California. I don't remember where it is. I got it written down somewhere. There's this community of people, and somewhere up here in California, that it's a very small community, and it's their practice is to stare into the sun at sunup or sundown. And what they've done is they've trained themselves to be able to slowly, instead of just getting up and looking at it, which will make you blind, they went from 1 second to 2 seconds to 5 seconds to 10 seconds. And some of these people can stare into the sun for a long time. I don't remember what it was, but when he told me about this and I looked into it, it's mind-blowing what they could do. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. And meeting these people, what he expressed to me was, he said to me, Scott, Krishna Scott, all I can tell you is when you see them, they have this quality in their eyes that is mesmerizing. There's a clarity, there's a crystalness in their eyeballs, in their actual retinas that is unmistakable. They all have, and their life expectancy in this little community is astronomical. It's well in triple digits, and it's consistent. This is an ancient practice that has been taught by mystics for a long time to be able to do this. They used to do this in ancient Egypt, to be able to stare into the sun and absorb its power. Train yourself to be able to do it. So you can see these meditations. We're going to do another one. Distance. Calculate the distance to a familiar spot. Oh, I like this one. The corner grocery store, or any place that is about a mile away that you're familiar with. Now, imagine driving your car over to that location one time. Now do this. Now do that 24,900 times, and you would know how long it would take to drive around the earth once. See, we put this into a context. Your trip to the store that you do all the time, do that 24,900 times. Now you've gone around the earth. That's how far it is. Imagine going to that store 24,000 times. How long does it take to drive to work? Is it 20 miles, a half hour? Or do you commute, maybe down the 405 in Los Angeles, one of the busiest freeways in the world, about 15 miles from the Santa Clara Valley where I live to Wilshire Boulevard. A very common commute that takes over an hour when traffic is mild. Now imagine commuting 16,000 times and you will have made it to the moon, 240,000 miles. If you were to get in your car right now and drive nonstop for most of your life, you would not even be able to reach the sun, whose radiance and heat is felt profoundly upon your face when you look at it all the time. So what these are designed to do is when you hear these and you read through them, it's just to sit and think, feel the awe, feel the beauty, feel the appreciate. And this, again, is an active meditation that you can experience a real shift and a change, a feeling. Rather than empty my mind, I don't have an empty mind. I want to feel something. I want something in my mind. I want to feel the love and the power. Space. Imagine the universe as empty, as if there were nothing here, not even space, just nothing. Imagine that there never was anything. You can't. Now imagine that the universe is all intact. It is whole, and as it is with one exception, no living things to live in it. No people to measure it or calculate it. No one to observe it, no one to contemplate it, no one to appreciate it. Imagine the nothingness if there were no creation. Now imagine the billions of light years of stars and galaxies and quasars that are immensity and incomprehensible to our puny minds, stars and other stellar bodies that are millions of times the mass of our sun. Billions of light years away, doing their thing, exploding, shrinking, colliding, creating beautiful clouds of colors and mists of feathery gases. For whom? All these things are existing out there, so far away we cannot even know them, yet they continue unobserved and unappreciated. Sit quietly and travel through the billions of light years of space. What blows my mind about this is that this is happening right now, all the time, no matter what you're doing. Taking a bath, taking a nap, mowing the yard, no matter what you're doing, all this stuff is going on out there, never stopping. Whether you know it or not, whether anybody knows it or not, whether anybody observes it or not. Things that are happening so far away that no one has ever seen them, no one ever will. The light that we see from stars, many of these stars don't even exist anymore. That's how long it's taken for the light to get to us. They don't even exist. We're seeing them up in the sky. That's staggering. Now let's get a little bit closer to home meditation. Meditate on the perfect balance that allows the earth to sustain life. Think of how many millions of events and details had come together in just the perfect balance for life to be here. Think of how beautiful humanness is and how it all might have never have happened if the moon had just been a little far off. If the sun had accumulated a little more mass, making it too large, or if the earth had been so as close to the sun as Venus is, or so far away as Saturn. Think of the absolute miracle that it is that so many millions of details came together, and how if any one of those millions of details had been slightly different, that there might be no life here at all in the entire universe. One little detail. There's another one here about life. Again, just a paragraph. Then trip out. Here's the final one in this section. Trip out. Oh, I like this one. You're traveling at 150 miles per second right now. The entire planet Earth and the entire solar system is traveling at 150 miles per second right now. We are flying through space and we don't even feel it. At this speed, it will take millions of years to do one single revolution around our own galaxy. Millions of years to do one circumference around our galaxy. In the heart and center of our galaxy is a huge hole that is pulling everything inside it, crushing it into a small space, and entire planets are becoming smaller than the heads of pins. Entire suns are being reduced to the size of points of pins. Laws of physics and reality that remain constant for billions of years, of light years of distance, are breaking down. And this is happening all over the universe in hundreds of billions of places. I like that one because, again, the distance one. Think of your local mini mart store that you go to, and then expand that to the distance between you and the moon, or you and the sun, or anything. Gives you some context. Again, these meditations, they bend our minds. And this is what meditation is for, to expand our minds, to reach outward, and also to go inward to the microcosm. Now, I'm going to do a quick departure or segue. Because as I was preparing for this and having my coffee this morning, I walked through this room and something caught my eye. And I thought, oh, wow, that happens to be out because I was working on another piece of work. And normally it's concealed. It's sitting in a booklet where it belongs. And it was happened to be laying out. And I was like, you know what? That's relevant today. And it was because I had to do some reference to Kabbalah's Tree of Life when I was working on some other contexts, on some blog stuff. This is my own creation of the Tree of Life, because all the other ones that I've found online and in books didn't have everything that I wanted on it. I wanted one that had everything on it. Astrology, numerology, the Sephiroth, the paths, the tarot cards, all of them in one spot. So I created this one. Now, The tree of life is the macro-micro. It is a map, a blueprint that teaches you and shows you how consciousness works, how it descends from the creative force and power, which is the God power, into material reality. And it goes through these ping-ponging little stages to become human consciousness. It also shows in reverse how to take human consciousness from a dense state to something spiritual and metaphysical and beyond that. In addition, this is a blueprint of creation. This is how the universe is made. This tree of life, which is the core of the Tanakh, the Torah, the Old Testament, demonstrates what is said in the Genesis chapter. It shows you a figure of what these 7 days, which were not actual days, 24-hour periods. 7 days is very analogical and metaphorical. They're huge concepts of time. On the cosmic calendar, that's what they are. 7 days, 7 cosmic calendar days. That in this simple figure explains what, again, as I've read volumes and volumes of thick books for quantum physics and creation astronomy, it's all right here. In this magical, mystical tool that simply is a way to explain and demonstrate and illustrate the process of creation, God's creative force and power. And again, it's not all magical and mystical. It is scientific. It's understandable. It's logical, reasonable. They didn't have any telescopes. They didn't have any microscopes. And yet they were able to create this. It is argued that spiritual knowledge and these concepts are not created. They're revealed. Vedavyas, the captain, you could say, of most of the Sanskrit texts, the Vedas, which means knowledge. Vedavyas is the sage that produced them. We don't see, as a Sanatana Dharmist, we don't see Vedavyas as the writer or author. Patanjali, who is the author of the Yoga Darshans, Ashtanga Yoga and all the yoga that you know of, Patanjali is the sage that produced them. But the truth is, they're not looked at as the original authors. They revealed them, that these things exist in their own time and space within the Akashic records, and the sages and gurus and masters reproduce them. They exist infinitely and eternally within their own space. They are perfect. They are ever, forever. And again, put this in cosmological terms. The universe exists as we see it today, but there was a time when it was a tiny point, all of it condensed into one little tiny, beyond billions of times smaller than a pinpoint, billions of times smaller. It was all there. We see it now produced. It is revealed. But it's always existed and always will. And again, even as a child, and I was starting to get into cosmology and astronomy, and I'm reading about the Big Bang and singularity and all that. I mean, literally a child, like 8, 9 years old, right? Well, I was really fascinated, kind of could not quite understand it. And I'm having these kind of rogue, crazy thoughts, thinking like, so, and there was this Disney movie about black hole. I think it was actually called Black Hole. Disney movie. It wasn't that great, but it was a big popular movie that was about people condensing into the like a black hole, right? And I remember seeing this and reading these things and thinking, so if the entire universe comes from a singularity moment, and the black hole is what sucks everything up and condenses it, wouldn't what's on the other side of a black hole, which supposedly can't be known, wouldn't that be a whole universe? Wouldn't it all be coming in to a singularity point and then coming out to the side? Some other dimension? I thought that I was just a dumb kid, thinking, of course, you're just not reading it right. Obviously, they're explaining that, and you're missing it. You're missing the point. Turns out, as I kept studying, like, they're not talking about that. And I'm thinking, I'm like a kid. How do I I must be wrong. They know, so I must be missing something. And here I am in CERN having the same kind of question with physicists that I'm having casual conversation with, as casual as I could be. And again, I'm wondering, like, I'm asking these questions, and a physicist in CERN is like, that's interesting. And I'm like, me? Interesting? To you? Holy shit. You know? And this is the beauty of it, is that out of the mouths of babes, right? Now, as the Great Hadron Collider and physicists track down the boson and string theory and M theory, now indeed, it's not that there weren't physicists, even when I was a child, proposing this concept of a Big Bang singularity being the exact, and a black hole being the exact same event. It's that science community will not talk about that out loud until they can establish mathematics for it. But to me, it was kind of an obvious conclusion because I'm not trained in science. I can't do the math. And so I'm looking at Occam's razor. I'm looking at the most obvious answer, which in my innocence allowed me to see it. Again, I thought it was dumb. I was like, I'm not gonna say this out loud. I'm gonna look like an idiot that I don't know this thing that must be documented, written down, and it wasn't. So then we get into these microcosm. As above, now so below. Well, let's see what our slideshow has. Huh. There are two of them happening at once. Look at a little animation there. That one's supposed to be moving too. Again, what we have here in the workbook is some diagrams that give illustrations. So you can see, again, this diagram is a light photon particle bounce back and forth between two mirrors. Let's say it takes 1 second to do a round trip, one up and one down. The reason for this is, hold on, where's my little changer? Oh, is because we're starting to get into the concept of time. Now the photon appears to be traveling a greater distance due to the motion of the mirrors. The mirrors are moving, not the particle. Particles are still going up and down. The mirrors are moving, which would take a fraction of more time, 1.1 seconds perhaps. This is how time happens. Simply motion. Again, what Einstein established for us was the reliance of time, of motion with mass. It's pretty impressive that, again, these complex theories and science can be explained in very physical diagrams, in very simple diagrams, excuse me. Now, let's go back one. Here's an image of the fabric of space and time. What Einstein was looking for, again, was the core, the original event, and again, the boson. And his great mistake, as he referred to it, was that he wasn't able to discover this in his lifetime, but even though they're getting close. And he rejected some of the theories that now we accept and know are factual about the cosmos. And here's an image of one, that the fabric of space and time is just that. Gravity and all these things occur because we are floating within this matrix, within this fabric, and we're making an indentation, an impression within it. I love this image because it shows why time and space bend around a material thing. Time and space bend. Again, time is different for speed of light. It doesn't experience time because it's faster than. Time cannot keep up with it. And everything experiences time at a different level because based on its motion. When you run to the store, you're experiencing less time than I am sitting still. Again, kind of mind-blowing because the fabric of space and time bends around that which is sitting within it. This leads us to understand that you are here. Leads us to understand that, again, that there is no nothingness. That we perceived or used to perceive as space, empty space, void, and nothingness is not the case at all. Now, what quantum physics is revealing to us, what we all kind of suspect all along, again, spiritualists are kind of like, well, duh, everything's connected. It's all a living thing. Is that it is all one, you could say, gelatinous, uniform substance. There is a blanket, there is a cosmic gel that everything exists within, and it's not nothingness. That nothingness is something in a different substance. And we could say, as we do in spiritual context, a subtle matter, a subtle energy. Light is energy. Light is a source. Subtle is less tangible. Light is either a particle or a wave. And again, quantum physics, you cannot make sense of this. And this is, again, where science breaks down. And this shows that God will sit up there and say, you know what? Fear it all you want. I'm going to make sure there's something you just cannot grasp. So they can mathematically understand light being a particle and a wave simultaneously. Not one after the other. It is both a particle and a wave. And that does not make any sense. Scientifically, mathematically, it does not. Physicists have to just accept that that's the way it is. You can either gauge where a light particle is or how fast it's moving, but you can't do both. You can't. Can't. So again, here we have this image of you are here. Here's this massive galaxy, and we're this little tiny dot within it. And this is just one of millions of infinite galaxies. One of infinite. Now, our spatial dimensions are extended. They are open. Other dimensions, so we have 3 spatial in one time. Our spatial dimensions are extended. They are open. They're unfolded. Other dimensions are just as expansive as if they were if they were uncurled, we would be able to travel in a new direction. One inconceivable to us now, since we are stuck in a world view of 3 dimensions. To illustrate this, we will take a seemingly, we will look at a seemingly one-dimensional existence of line land. Our arrow point can only travel forward and back. Here's this top line here with this little arrow point. Forward and back, that's line land. That's one dimension. Again, 3 spatial. Forward and back, up and down, side to side. That's what we experience. Nothing else. We have 3 spatial dimensions. That's all we know, right? Again, what we're now realizing and what we're able to establish mathematically is if we break these down. So one dimension is line land. There's one of our 3 spatial dimensions, which is just forward and back. If we extend line land into flat land, our arrow point can now travel in an up and down direction too. Up and down. And we have 2. Again, to us, it makes sense. We're like, what else would there be? But if you are only aware of your one dimension, you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't be able to grasp this concept. Then we extend flat land. So from line land to flat land, we extend flat land and uncurl it to a 3rd dimension and becomes tube land. Now we have forward and back. We have 3 dimensions. Depth. Now, when this is explained, again, I like Brian Greene. He's the one that where I learned this from. Let me make sure and we'll go there. That stop share. I like this part. That think of it this way. We live in a 4-dimensional world that we're aware of, that we perceive. 3 spatial, 1 time. We all accept this. And time is an eternal present. We experience the now, and that's it. We're aware of a past, we're aware of a future, we'll experience the now. So we're experiencing one. So by the same concept, if there's one dimension where there's just line land, the theory is this, that there is a you. There are 3 versions of you. There is a you that exists and are only perceiving a line land single dimension. That's all you know. In that particular dimension, that's all you perceive. You don't know about the other one, the other two. There's another one where you experience both, two of them, line land and flat land. And in this one, you're perceiving three: line land, flat land, and tube land, right? Three spatial dimensions. It's hard to bend your mind around because, again, we perceive three spatial dimensions and one time. But again, as I say this, and again, I'm this kid in the candy store thinking like, well, wait a minute, what about, and again, this is where I'm talking with this and with physicists and CERN, and again, thinking I'm going to be told like, what a dumb, like the dumb guy in the room. This kid doesn't know shit. And I was a kid, again, this was not that long ago. And I'm trying to capitalize on the moment that I'm at CERN with physicists, and I'm trying to create memories that I'll be able to cherish, that I get this audio, that I get this interaction. And I'm trying to also do this where I don't embarrass myself by saying things that are so obvious. They're like, come on, man, what are we doing? Simple arithmetic, simple mathematics here, And so I'm asking him, I said, so this time dimension, we experience one, an eternal present, but we're aware of two others. So does it mean there's three? There's three spatial dimensions. Doesn't mean there's three time dimensions. We're experiencing one. What's the only one we perceive? And again, Interstellar, if you've seen the movie, does a phenomenal job at exploring this other concept that the other time dimensions are just as real and accessible as any of the other ones. We live in a dimension where we only perceive one, but the other two exist. And Interstellar, he basically time travels. He's able to experience multiple time dimensions at once within the cosmos. Again, we can do this intellectually. We can think of the past. We can ruminate on the future. We can contemplate it, but we can't experience them simultaneously. As a spiritualist and as a mystic, I bend time all the time. And I'm fully aware that a Buddha, an enlightened personality, is not confined to the here and now. They're omniscient and omnipresent. They're not confined to a time. We can do this conceptually. Think of the past, contemplate the future, but we don't experience them. And again, the concept here is that they all exist all at once. Within the Akashic space, they all exist in a dimension that we can't perceive, but because maybe they're curled up so tight that we can't perceive them, but they're here. Again, we're going to get into here the string and M theory. Quantum physics has now established that there are 11 different spatial dimensions. 11. That the only way that the one we experience exists is mathematically, there has to be a total 11 of them. We only perceive 3 because the other ones are curled up too tight for us to perceive. If they were uncurled, like the 3 that we experienced, we'd be able to see and experience those too. And yes, physicists, so what would be the other directional spaces and directions that these other dimensions have? And they say, well, no. We can't know. We know that they're there, but we can't even conceive or theorize what they could be. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. It's not knowable. It is not knowable unless you're. But this means that since they exist and we perceive there's a line land, flat land, tube land, that we're perceiving all 3, and there's possibly that one of us in a dimension that parallel universe that only experiences 1 or 2 of them. Doesn't this mean that there is a us, a you, and a me that's experiencing a dimension that it has 5 spatial dimensions, and 6, and 7 all the way up to 11? I say yes, there is. And again, as a mystic and spiritualist, I feel like I know what some of these dimensions are. Einstein established that there is nothing that can be as fast as the speed of light. It's physically not possible. It has a calculable, measurable motion, 186,000 miles per second. And I say, no, sir. There is a substance within this universe that travels faster than the speed of light. Thought. Where do you trace the inception of a thought, its moment of conception, to having it? How fast is your thought? We can't calculate it. We can't measure it because we can't see the time span between Inception, and there's another Christopher Nolan movie, Inception, that's mind blowing, that kind of taps into this too, to an actual thought. And again, here I am thinking, well, what am I going to have for lunch today? I think I'll have a sandwich. Where is the distance between? Okay, there's clearly a measurable distance between me having this conscious thought and going making a sandwich. What I'm going to do, what I'm going to make, all these kind of things, all these measurable details that are easily calculated. But what about the inception of the thought before I'm even aware of it? Now, we can say in this case, well, your stomach sent you a signal. And again, in this sense, in a physical way, this is a very slowed down version. But let's just take love. How fast does the idea of love travel to experience the feeling of it? I'd say faster than light. It seems pretty instant. Now, light to me seems instant too. I flip a switch and boom, it's there, right? I don't see the time lapse, but it's there. It does exist. It's just too fast for me to witness it. But thought and emotion, it has a calculated distance too, a measurable distance. We don't know what it is. We can't. So I'm saying, God love Einstein. I'm a big fan, but I'm saying you're wrong. And that someday, when they try, when they even consider measuring and looking at what they would consider the magical aspects of life and existence, they'll see something faster than the speed of light. And that is the speed of thought and emotion, consciousness. The fabric of the universe that ties everything together is consciousness. It is a mind. It is intellect. It is intelligence. It is feeling. It is love. My favorite physicists, such as Einstein, not just because he was a vegetarian at the end, that's one of the reasons, which I like very much, that they don't see the separation between spirit and science. As I am, they're motivated because of it. Now, let's see here. Get lost in Let me see what we got here. All right, so let me share the screen. Okay, why can't I share screen? Oh boy, now I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Come on. There we go. There's the little buttons. There we go. Sorry about that. So what we have now as we go into it, let me change screens here. Now, many of these images that I'm sharing with you today are within the workbook. And that's why some of them don't look that great, because in the workbook, printed workbook, they are black and white, and so they lose some clarity. I'm able to view some of them today and share them with color, and I downloaded some new ones. So let me show you here. And again, as we why won't you work? Boom, there we go. Again, now we get into the strings. This matrix of substance that connects all things together. That again, spiritualists and mystics have theorized and been projecting all throughout history that everything is unified, everything's connected, everything, every event, everything, every person has some kind of connection. And as spiritualists, we all accept this. Oh, we're all one thing, you know? Oh, we gotta love each other. But science had struggled with that. String theory and M theory, which we're not going to get into M theory, it's a little bit tough to conceptualize in a talk. is that the entire fabric of the universe, the fabric again is space and time. That's the fabric. Space and time are the fabric, the mesh, the material. All of the multiverse is within or part of. And the string theory is, as we see in this bigger picture here, and the smaller picture, we have one small string, part of it, down here at the bottom, and showing it in a bigger context. Strings all interconnected to make things. And let me see, I think I got it explained here in the next one. So here is a more beautiful version of this. Now, these aren't just random shapes. What you're seeing here is indeed computer-generated models of spatial dimensions based on string theory, measurements, and dimensions and calculations. Again, this isn't just some kind of art. This is physicists that are using the formula, putting them into data and in computers, and that generate what it might look like. So here is a concept to be able to grasp what these other dimensions might look like with string theory. Now we're going to get a little bit more of string theory. So there is the infamous Calabi-Yau. It's called Calabi-Yau because those are the two guys that kind of theorize and put it together. So this is a physical image of what a multidimensional reality would look like. Again, there's all these different folds, all these different contours that we can't access. There's this outer shape that we see, and there's all these different folds. And again, this is mathematically, not just conceptually, like somebody thought, oh, it would be cool to look like this. This is mathematically, theoretically, scientifically designed that this was very possible what the dimensions look like in physical space. And again, we don't know what they are. So it's called Calabi-Yau for that reason. Now, we're not going to go there. Let me stop share. So the point is, with string theory, I'm getting chills. String theory blows my mind. And we say theory because until you can physically transcribe it and hold it and all that, science is not allowed to say anything more than theory. And again, even Einstein's relativity is still a theory. I once saw in Time magazine a list of things that exist in the world because of Einstein's theory of relativity. We're talking anything from bars of soap to pencils. I mean, it was this like half the magazine was this long list of just items and products that we take for granted every day that only exist because we know about theory of relativity. It's mind-blowing. I encourage you to look at it. It'll blow your mind. So the theory with string theory is that the entire universe, the fabric of the universe, is one consistent fabric made of tiny strings, like your garment that you're wearing is made of tiny strings. And that any part of the fabric that gets poked, nudged, or experience any type of motion cause a ripple effect that affects all the rest. Makes sense, right? That just makes common sense. So in other words, butterfly effect, if a string vibrates 20 million light years from here, it eventually causes an effect all the way across the Omniverse. And the way this is explained within physicists is, think of a guitar. We have a musician in our midst, so you can really appreciate this. What is music? A vibration, right? Music is simply a vibration done at a certain pitch and tone to generate a certain frequency that it is. It's a frequency. String theory does the same thing. You could say power, magnitude, timing of motion within a string. When a string vibrates, hold on, let me back up a moment. The size of a string is billions of times smaller than an atomic nucleus. Billions of times smaller. No wonder why it has to be a theory and it can't be proven yet in a physical way. So the entire fabric of the universe is made of these. There are uncountable numbers of them all around us all the time. We're swimming in them. We're immersed in them. Like a water, like a primordial water, we're immersed in them. And anytime any string moves, it causes a chain reaction, domino effect that causes all the other ones to move. And when a string moves, based on how it moves, it becomes either a gluon, a muon, or any other kind of subatomic particle. Then it has personality. It becomes, rather than just a string, it becomes some brand, some type. It has a character. It has a specific quality to it that cause all the other ones to do something different. Again, I get a little lost because as I begin to explain some of the science of it, some of the theories that, because I'm not very good at science of it, the theory of it, it ties your head into knots. I mean, the reason it can't be really explained even by physicists is because it can't be explained. You can't grasp it. It's just beyond your capacity. There will always be some level of mystery. And even if we could figure out all of the cosmos, the tiny, the macro and the micro, all of it, I'm pretty sure that the God power would just create one more that we could not understand. We're not authorized to be able to understand the entire thing. We will never be able to. No matter what we find, you can always go smaller. As they search for the boson in CERN. And when I went to CERN in 2015, they had not found the boson. They had not realized it. Now they have. Several years later, they did find the boson. They now have it. And what comes next? This is supposed to be the pinnacle, the end. This is the bottom of the rabbit hole. There is no more to go to, the boson. There's no smaller particle. This is the God particle. Everything comes from is the boson. All right? Right when you hear that, you're thinking like, well, where did it come from? Automatically. Curious, wondering human beings, we automatically, yeah, what else you got? That's great. What else you got? I want some more. Don't quit on me now. You found this, keep going. And again, there's Einstein, these people are like, that's right. So again, the current physics community, quantum physics, is saying there's nothing else. You can't get any smaller. They know it's not true. That one has to come from somewhere. Let me back up a moment and have a little bit of fun with quantum physics in the microcosm. Quanta, meaning quantity, of course, quantum physics makes no sense. Physicists are the first ones that will tell you that mathematically, theoretically, and everything else, quantum, when we get into the micro, does not make any sense. It defies all logic and reason. It cannot be set and understood. And they accept this. Physicists look at this and say that's one of the features of quantum physics. Quantum mechanics is that you can't understand it. It defies all logic and reason. It doesn't adhere to any formula. And when you find a formula and that works and it's consistent, it changes. And again, light being a particle and a wave, that's just not possible. A particle or a wave, back and forth, but light is both a particle and a wave. Simultaneously. It doesn't change back and forth. Again, when you find it, you can see it as a particle or a wave, but it is both simultaneously. And when you find its location, you can't see how fast it's moving. You either know where it is or you can know how fast it's moving, but that's it, or where it's moving to. You can't do both. Can't. Again, for me, this is God having the last word. Saying, yep, get your smarty pants on all you want. I'm a mission you will never be able to fathom. And I'm going to make sure, because not because I want you to wallow in ignorance and feel ashamed, but because I want you to feel exalted, that there is something so grand, so beyond you that you can't even fathom it. That is complicated and wonderful as you, beautiful as you are, you cannot possibly grasp this. And if you do, I'm going to change it. I'm going to create a whole new rule. I'm going to throw something else at you. You're going to find the boson. Now, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Does this mean that the boson didn't exist until I started to look for it? That maybe God, the God power, the creative power is like, you know what? They're going down the rabbit hole. They've gone past the nucleus and the gluons and the muons. And so again, in the 50s, there was the atom and the nucleus of the atom. And that was it. There was nothing smaller. Atom in Greek, ancient Greek, means uncuttable. It means you can't get anything smaller, uncuttable. Well, we saw that right away. They're made of things. Protons, neutrons, electrons, made of things. And those things are made of something. Gluons, muons, etc. Now, so did God create the universe and created it with atoms when we found the atom? And then when we started looking further, it's like, great, now I got to get back into the lab and I got to do some more work. Got to give you something else. And then there was the protons and neutrons and electrons. And then we started breaking that apart. He's like, oh, great, now I got to go back in the lab. And again, as we look for the God particle of the boson, is he saying like, great, now I got to go back in the lab and I could create something else. So chicken or the egg? Are these subatomic, are these core particles or energy or whatever you want, wherever you want to go with it, are they existing already or do they become existing when we start to look for them? I find that mind-blowing. Science doesn't really choose that aspect. And again, when you talk to them, as I'm in CERN, when I begin to have these conversations, I'm thinking they all like this philosophical aspect of things. They do not. They get exhausted from me, like many people do, and be like, "Go away, kid, you bother me." They don't want to deal with it, you know? And I'm thinking like I'm in this mecca of brilliant minds, and I want to absorb. I'm going to be like, I want to enjoy this, you know? And indeed, I saw a couple of them being like, go away, kid, you bother me. Like this is we don't do that here. We don't go these areas. And again, my accident as my spinal surgeon was a brilliant guy. I can walk today because of what he did and when he did and how he did it. Now, spinal fusion is a fairly, I would say, common. It's a established surgical procedure for sure. But how mine was discovered, and I was suspended in stirrups upside down for 12 hours. Yeah, in surgery. 12 hours. Suspended in stirrups from a ceiling. Unconscious for 12 hours. That's how hard it was to fix what was going on with my spine by the time they found it. And as a metaphysics, subtle body, Kundalini, chakra, energy, blah, 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 so-called expert, I'm trying to marry these things and trying to figure out, because I want to walk again. I mean, I'm in bad shape. I mean, I'm terrified. And eventually, I sat down with my spinal surgeon, can't remember his name, doesn't matter. And I'm having this conversation, and I'm asking him like about the ascending and descending nerve, spinal fluid, spinal energy, cerebral cortex, extending up to the pineal gland, blah, blah. And he's like, and real quick, he's kind of like, I don't go there, man. Because I'm thinking he's going to be fascinated by the subtle body aspect of this. That everything that's said within the physical body is superimposed upon the subtle body, right? And he has no knowledge of it, and no interest in it. And I'm thinking as a scientist, he's going to be marveling at this. And anything he's got to know. He has no interest whatsoever. Just didn't want to bother with it, I find that equally mind-blowing. As I read Francis Crick's book about the discovery of DNA, and I'm reading this book, and I'm like blown away through the entire thing. And I'm reading this thing, and I'm enjoying it so much and seeing God's miracle taking place within the DNA structure and the creation of humanity, of life. Blown away, seeing God power in it all the time. And I'm thinking, I'm loving this guy thinking like he is like working intimately with God's creative power. He's got to be blown. He's right there with the miracles. At the end of the book, at the very last few pages, it's like the epilogue kind of thing. And he says, paraphrasing here, people ask me all the time whether I'm spiritual or religious. I am not. I do not believe or support any one of those things. It's all science. None of that matters. It's all completely ridiculous. And I was like, I'm glad I didn't find that till the end because it would have ruined what I was reading, you know? And I'm thinking, how could he, of all people, miss that? I'm assuming when I'm reading it, no one knows God better than this guy. I mean, he is like right there, side by side with the creative process, side by side, knowing it, unraveling it. He is right there. He's got the front row window seat, you know? And he completely did not only, it wasn't just saying like, I don't really have an opinion. This is complete crap, and this is what's real. And I don't know how he can't link those two together. I don't know how he can, I don't know how it doesn't happen. Again, mind blowing to me. That is a miracle too. The Yogmaya, ignorant miracle, the miracle of ignorance. So we're going to wrap up here. We've gone off the book quite a bit. We'll go ahead and share the last few slides, I think, if they're there. Just don't move. Ah. Oh, so yeah, this is the last slide. And so, as you can see, as I show the Kalabiao shape, thought it would be kind of fun, interesting to close this with the Sri Yantra. The Sri Yantra, the ancient, mystical, meditative tool that, again, it's called Sri Yantra because Sri is categorizing it as the mother, the master, the father yantra of all of them. They all are subdivisions of this. And the Sri Yantra is like the tree of life. It is a depiction of the universe itself. If you meditate and marvel and understand the figurings, the mathematics, the science that's within the Sri Yantra, it is perfect. Mathematically, theoretically, scientifically, geometrically, perfect. And this is more than ancient. I accept it as primordial. Again, it wasn't created by any person. It was revealed, produced. It exists within its own time and space all the time. And it doesn't just represent the cosmos. It's showing you what it is in its more subtle layers. As you go past the stars and the moons and the physical matter of it, what you get to is the harmony of the spheres, the beauty that is beyond all that, that is simply concepts. Let me close with the harmony of the spheres since I brought that up. I'll go ahead and read that part as we wind down here and wrap up here with the harmony of the spheres. So within the workbook, I will tell you that there is a whole different collection of meditations with the microcosm stuff. One called strings, elements, dimensions, and particles. So there's 4 different guided meditations there as well. I can't find him. Hold on 1 second, please. If I can't find it, I'll just move on. Oh, here we go. Look at that. That's not the one I wanted. Pythagoras was a philosopher and scientist. Pythagoras is known for being one of the fathers of mathematics and science and astronomy, And yet, for him, that was his day job. Pythagoras is a mystic. My numerological system that I use in all my readings is Pythagorean. I wouldn't touch anything else. One of the most beautiful concepts that he developed was the harmony of the spheres. Long before we had physics and microscopes and telescopes, he is proposing that the entire universe is one amorphous unit, all connected by this subtle substance, all one thing in different components. And the harmony of the spheres, he proposes that all the celestial bodies that exist within the Omniverse, again, they're all connected and they all have their own motion and movement and they rub against each other. All of them are connected and rubbing against each other. And this friction causes a music that he called the harmony of the spheres. He's saying that this is what God hears. The Om, the music of the universe, is all the celestial body phenomena touching each other. And like when you rub your finger on a balloon, it squeaks, or even better, people that play glasses. So beautiful. And again, violins and flutes, to be able to access this music by causing vibrations, which is just friction in a guitar string, in a flute, whatever it may be. As you blow on that flute, you're causing a ripple effect, changing the course of the air and the oxygen, the molecules and atoms that are there that causes this. Well, again, well before our modern microscopes and telescopes and all this stuff, here's Pythagoras developing this beautiful concept along with his mathematics that changed the world. There would be no Isaac Newton, no Einstein, all this. It starts partly with him and many others. And again, he doesn't really care about that too much. These are all means to an end to him. What he's more fascinated with and what he's in love with is the harmony of the spheres, the concepts that are beyond the tangible and mechanical and the data. So the harmony of the spheres is just that. Keep this in mind in your daily living, that what you're immersed in is a fabric of the universe, and you're part of it. And what you do and think and feel is causing the friction that's contributing to the harmony of the spheres. The end. Any questions? Any comments?
Yes, actually. I'm glad that you went into that last part because that kind of segues into something that came into my mind. You and I have a lot of parallels from when we were younger, Chris, but we kind of already knew that. I remember learning, and although I'm not a science person, I've always been fascinated with sound, naturally. And I remember learning that when you produce a sound, when you hear a sound, when something makes a sound of branch tapping on a window, or whether you sing or whether you play something or talk, you hear it and then you don't hear it, but it doesn't mean it's gone.
That's right.
It's moved on. It is still a solo I played when I was 12 is out there somewhere. And I
Right.
remember thinking when I was maybe 12-ish, it's that age of wonder, if I could time travel, could I find it and listen to it
Oh,
again?
wow. Indeed,
So
this is Carl Sagan was proposing that exact thing. Carl Sagan was saying, like, creating these time capsules, creating these things that when you send them out into the universe, and again, same with light, light does not diminish. Light goes on forever. There's no termination of light. Light, and so sound supposedly has a measurable end to it. But again, I agree with you. I think that the subtle layers of it, once you create that sound, that note, it goes and travels out and expands. It just keeps on
mhm,
going and going. And
yeah,
again, let's keep this in mind with our thoughts and feelings. What you think is an energy. And I say it travels faster than the speed of light and has more power. We can't measure it because it's that subtle. But indeed, not just the tone of music that you set into a vibration, into the fabric of
Anything.
but what you felt when you play it, and what I feel when I'm hearing it. You know, I mean I mean, again, you and I will sometimes text a little bit on Saturday nights when I'm having a beer and listening to some music, and I've told them listen to that Renaissance stuff, and again, there's these moments where whether it was the Grateful Dead or Renaissance music, I am trapped within and enjoying this divine element of just being able to produce something that is so emotional, so moving. Whether it's a Grateful Dead or a symphony, it moves me, that it can have that reverberation, that vibrational effect on the way I feel and think, which again is causing, as it comes in, it causes a vibration like a string and it goes back out. Which affects everything else. This is our opportunity as spiritual beings having human experience rather than the other way around. That what we think, what we feel, we can choose. This is our free will. This is the endowment that God has given to us to have free will, to choose what we think and feel and how. So why not develop it? I am, I guess, such a science nerd. I do not understand, again, how Francis Crick was not, I don't know, just could not even view or appreciate the God power that's in what he's doing. And yet it doesn't happen. I can't grasp that. And I encourage all people to do it. And again, it doesn't take anything away. You don't have to become less scientific when you become spiritual. As a matter of fact, my spirituality is more than enhanced. It's not reliant upon science, neither is science reliant upon spirits. To me, they're the exact same thing, two sides of the exact same coin. And again, as you say, that I agree. I think that sound and that emotion of what you play, it's out there. You've sent a transmission of love and feeling of something of beauty, because I know that when you play, you're in your own space. And again, when I write and create things,
Yep.
I don't care what's going on in the world. I'm not trying to do it for you. I'm doing it because that's it's in my heart. I'm trying to express what I have. And I got to do it, or otherwise I'm going to combust, you know? And when you do
Yes.
that, you're giving a gift to the world. So yeah, let's try to have some good thoughts, right?
Yeah. Yep. And if there's a way to time travel, I wonder if I'd hear 12-year-old me playing again.
Right. Or there's some three-eyed alien ET somewhere millions of light years away that's hey, you hear that? That's Barb. That's Barb back on Earth playing the flute.
Right.
You never know? And
That's
then
right.
we can have fun with this. And again, this is the wonder of it, is that we can have fun with this. It's not all dry science, is we can have fun. And again, what I try to show in these workbooks is that, and again, if you see this, you can get it for $2, a couple dollars, and otherwise it's like $8. And what I'm trying to show is that we don't have to separate science from the spirit, and one enhances the other. They both enhance each other. They deepen them, you know. And again, music. I don't play music. I play a little bit of guitar. Used to, and the small amount that I know about music, and again about filmmaking. I'm not a filmmaker, but as I give the example with Christopher Nolan, with Inception and with Interstellar and with Stanley Kubrick's 2001 is one of my favorite movies of all time. And again, the understanding the more practical scientific aspects of that just makes me feel that I'm having a profound experience that other people in this theater may not be having, because I'm getting layers of it that they don't understand. I'm getting all the stuff that you're getting, but I'm also getting all these other layers too. And again, that's why I think that God's mystery is just that. It's an invitation to look within and look without. An invitation to get to know me. You can't know me. I'm unknowable, but why not give it a try? That is satsang. That is sadhana. That is spiritual practice in its best form. To simply wonder and marvel and think about God, in any way you can, whether it's in planets or stars or what you're having for breakfast. All right, let's wrap it up. I appreciate your time and presence.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
yours too.
Okay, we'll do this again. So what's on next week?
Astrology.
Astrology. Oh, that's right. So nice transition. As a matter of fact, I've been drafting the wisdoms aspect for astrology. Did I give it to you already?
No.
Oh no. That's what I gotta go do right now then.
Wait,
So
did you do what already? What's your question?
the astrology wisdoms.
Yeah, you sent that to me.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
Good, because I know I worked hard on it. So yeah, what you're gonna be getting is as we introduce so what we're doing is the wisdoms email that goes out on Sundays is conceptual blog, and it's just something to think about and feel and enjoy. And then that ties into what the topic's going to be the next Saturday, which is announced on Fridays. So astrology, Chloe was the one that picked this subject because there is an astronomical event taking place, an alignment of planets that's been taking place for most of this month. It's going to peak around the 25th. That's coming right around the corner. And so rather than just talk about astrology itself, I got to dive deep into this alignment that's taking place, what it means, how we can use it, and it was a lot of fun. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week is astrology.
Yay.
Which
Fun.
ties into this above and below, right?
It sure does.
All right. Well, be here or what is it? Be there or be square. I would say be there, but I don't want you to be here, not there. You know, be here or I don't know. Just come on by. All right. I'll see you both soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye,
Bye,
Chloe.
Barb.